Hi, welcome. As promised, this video is going to be about how to get into mortuary school. If I look down, it's because I have my laptop with some notes so I don't forget anything. So the first thing that I would recommend is possible shadowing, and what that entails, or what I would suggest, is when you think you want to go to mortuary school or you want to be in this field if you already don't work at a mortuary or a funeral home. Those terms are used interchangeably, by the way. I would recommend maybe calling your local funeral home and asking if they possibly have the ability to do shadowing. I would say a lot of places will say no, and that's just because it's like a liability for them. If shadowing is not a possibility, I think it depends on your state. I'm in California, so it's a little different here. I would then recommend applying for a position. I would say SCI, which is Service Corporation International, would be a good start because they post their job listings online, whereas other mortuaries don't. A good starter position I would recommend would be a service assistant. So a service assistant would be helping with servicing the casket, passing out pamphlets, which is on where you work. Each place has like a different definition of what their service assistants are, if they even have service assistants. So that would be my first recommendation, because then you have some hands-on experience, you get to see day-to-day activity, and it would help you decide if it's really something that you're interested in, because maybe it's really not what you're thinking. So that would be my first recommendation. My second recommendation would be prerequisites. So I know I went to Cyprus. They had prerequisites to even get into the program. So you really should go on their website, figure out what the prerequisites are. I know it seems simple, but it's kind of a big deal. If you don't have the prerequisites to even get into the program, maybe you should reconsider. I know it's difficult to get classes sometimes. For me personally, it took me way longer than I would like to admit to get my prerequisites, and that is not because I wasn't on top of it. That is because the community college that I needed to go to, which was Cyprus and another community college, to get my prerequisites is really full, overfilled with students, and the hard sciences that I needed and the English class and the math class that I needed were hard to get into because everybody needed them for their own, courses they were going to take. So that's something to consider if how long you want to be in school, because it's not just a time commitment, it's also a money thing. If you don't have the money to do it, like I said, try and start, get a position in the mortuary, and then maybe down the road you can get, the experience you need and the money that you need to go to school. For me personally, I commuted from San Diego County to Orange County for 2 years, because that's how long the program is. And it was not fun, it was awful, and I did it, and I'm glad it's over. But it was a commitment. I decided that I wanted to commit to this, commit to my education, commit to what I was doing. I wanted to be a mortician, and I did it. So not everybody's willing to do that. Personally, I could not relocate. That wasn't an option for me, so commuting was my other option, and that's what I did. It puts a lot of stress on you, your family. It's just something to think about. And I also worked at a mortuary while going to school. Something that I wish somebody had told me before I even enrolled in Cyprus was that there's a thing called clinicals. Cyprus specifically, I can't speak for all mortuary schools, requires that you have clinical hours at a mortuary to fulfill part of your curriculum. And I did not know that. I think I knew of it, and I thought, oh, well, if they're requiring it, then they'll help me get it. And that was not the case. They had expected that everybody already have their clinical sites already set up, ready to go within the first 2 weeks of school. Students actually had to drop out of mortuary school because they could not get clinical sites, and I was almost one of them. I went to 10 different mortuaries. I handed out my resume in person. I dressed in a professional suit. I had a resume, and I even had a printout of the Cypress College clinical curriculum packet to explain kind of why I needed hours at a mortuary, because some mortuaries, you know, they don't, like I said, it's a liability. They don't really want to take you on because, you know, you're handling somebody's loved one. You know, it's just it's touchy. They don't want to have to like train somebody. They kind of want you already trained, which I know is kind of ridiculous, because how are you going to get the training if you aren't like let to do that? And I understand that. So I personally went to multiple mortuaries. I emailed, I called, I went in, like I said, and eventually I did get a clinical site. But it was like the, you know, 9th hour that made it, honestly. It was a small mortuary. They had just actually had somebody from Cyprus doing their clinicals for them who graduated, and they were willing to take on another student. So I felt lucky. And also, you know, the farther you go away from Cyprus, county-wise, I feel that the mortuaries know less about clinicals. The mortuaries around Cyprus kind of already know, they expect it. So that's something to keep in mind. If you know, live near the school, you probably will have more luck. It's just something I wish somebody had told me, and I didn't realize that it was going to be so difficult. So that's something to think about. Obviously, I don't know if I've already said this or not, but speak with a counselor. I know it sounds so simple, but you know, there's a forum on Cyprus, you know, and I'm sure the other schools as well, Worsham, Cincinnati, Texas, where you can online put in a request to speak with the counselor that you're interested into that program. They'll give you the breakdown. You just ask them, hey, I need a breakdown of what I need to get into the program, and they'll help you because that's their job. So that's important, because if you just kind of go in there blind and you don't know what you need, that's not gonna really help you. It's gonna waste time. You don't want to do that. So try and speak with a counselor if you can. Talk with somebody already in the program. If you have like friends, or maybe like you can connect with somebody on Facebook or social media, Instagram, speak with somebody who's either been through the program or is currently in the program. Ask them how they got in, how they feel about it, because they're currently in. So they'll know. They can help you. They can tell you, like, yeah, don't do it. Yes, do it. This is what you need. Don't, you know, talk to this counselor, talk to that counselor. So, you know, that's helpful. I know it's not an option for everybody to connect like that, but I encourage you to try. If there isn't a mortuary school in your state, are you willing to relocate for that? Or are you willing to take online classes? And I want to encourage you to not take online classes. And this might sound bad, and especially during COVID, you know, don't do it now, like maybe wait. But I would recommend doing it in person, because I would say 90% of mortuary school is hands-on in terms of what you're learning. You know, how to properly fold a flag, how to open and close a casket, how to cosmetize a deceased, how to dress a deceased, you know, funeral directing 101, where you need to stand, when you need to bow, when you need to, you know. I personally enjoyed being in class, not only because I'm more of like a visual hands-on person, but also because your friends are there and they can just kind of help you through stuff. You can talk it out, you know, okay, well, what if this happens? What would I do then? And, you know, that's just my recommendation. I mean, I have nothing against online mortuary school, but I've noticed personally with other coworkers I have worked with that you can tell that they got their funeral education online, because they'll know more of like textbook stuff, but they'll have maybe a little trouble with hands-on. And, you know, that's not to say they're not a good funeral director or whatnot. That's just, you know, what I've noticed personally. So another thing that I would say, that you're gonna have to fight for your education. And what I mean by that is, the school can only give you so much. So personally, my experience with Cyprus was, you know, here's the classes, this is what you need to do. If you fail this class, you have to wait a year for the class to come back around, which is something good to know about. I did not know that going in. I did not fail any classes, thankfully, but it is stressful. Mortuary school, Cypress College specifically, their grade grading system is different. A C, I believe, is a 75, and that's the lowest you can get. Otherwise, you fail the class. So that's important to know. If you generally aren't a great student, it's something to think about, because if you fail a class and you have to wait another year, that's just extending your time. Like, how much time do you want to put in? How much, do you really want to do this? That's really what it comes down to. Like, how much do you want to do this? So that's, something to think about. Just make sure that you stay on top of your stuff. You need to put in the effort. They can give you the material, but you need to do the study sessions and be with your friends and be like, okay, do you know this? Because I don't, can you explain it to me? And stuff like that, because otherwise it's not gonna happen, it's not gonna work. So you really need to ensure that you are putting in the time necessary to do this. And it's gonna be hard, especially if you're working at a clinical site, which I understand. I feel like I don't say they do it on purpose, but it's kind of like, hey, this is how it's gonna be anyway, like when you work in the field full time, which I'm experiencing now. It's a little stressful, even though I'm not at school anymore. So, something to keep in mind, something to think about. Just ensure that you are ready for it. You have to fight to get those grades and just stay on top of your stuff. It's really important. Only you can advocate for yourself, and you need to remember that. Only you can advocate for yourself. All right, so that's kind of how to get into mortuary school, my recommendations on, what you should do before you go to mortuary, stuff like that. I know they seem simple, they seem silly maybe, but maybe you haven't thought about it. Like, honestly, simply calling a counselor, talking to somebody who's already in, just ensuring that you know what the classes are. Also didn't know that Cypress College Mortuary Science program requires an accounting class. Yeah, within the program, there is an accounting class, and there's also business admin class, and there are 2 law classes. So it's not just whatever you think it's going to be. And also there's hard sciences, pathology, anatomy, physiology, all of that stuff. And they tend to wrap it into 1 or 2 classes, so it can be a little bit difficult. I know a lot of people struggle with those hard sciences, so it's just something to think about. Also, fun fact, there is math in embalming. So if you're not great at math, have no fear, because I'm not either, but you will be asked to do math. So just kind of prepare yourself for that. I think that people think that, oh, I'm gonna go to mortuary school and I'm gonna learn about dead bodies, and you do, but it's the chemical composition of decomposition, and it is how to run your own funeral home, accounting, and it's the law, what you need to know, how you can handle the body, what you can legally do. So you need to think about that as well. I don't think a lot of people think about that. They think, I'm gonna go mortuary school and it's gonna be great and it's gonna be easy. And it's not. And it gets kind of, it's not. Okay, so be aware of that. And that's the first part of this video. And the second part will be, is mortuary school for you? And I'll talk more in depth about what I did, what it entails, and the differences between funeral directing, embalming, and just the kind of roles within funeral service. Okay, thanks for watching, bye.